In this video, we are going to talk about 3 different types of error that we might obtain. Right? And so when we look at our 3 different types of error, the first type of error that we might obtain is called sampling error. And sampling error, this is simply error that we would attribute to differences in samples, right? As compared to the population, right? So if I have a class of students and a group of students, and maybe there are 30 students in the class, if I were to randomly choose 10 of them, the average age of those 10, the mean age of those 10 students, is probably not the same as the mean age of the population of the whole 30 students in the class. I expect that to happen. And so that is sampling error. We expect that to happen. This type of error is unavoidable. The next type of error that we could get is simply called non-sampling error. Here, when we think about non-sampling error, this is error that's attributed to human error. This type of error, this is avoidable. Now, when we say human error, that could be something like we have miscalibrated a scale, right? And so everything we weighed on that scale was incorrect. That would be human error, even though it's based on the fact that we had a scale, but the scale was miscalibrated. So when we have human error, that's a non-sampling error. That is what we would consider an avoidable error. I know all people make mistakes, but we can correct that, and we could go through the process again with that error corrected. And even though we would get some sort of sampling error the next time, we could correct whatever issue we had in the previous collection of data. And then the third type is non-random sampling error. So here we have error that's attributed to sampling methods that are not random. So a convenience sample or a voluntary response sample. We didn't really talk about these, but a voluntary response sample, this is a sample where people choose to be included in that sample. Right? So online polls, those are typically voluntary response. So ESPN years ago did a voluntary response poll where they were trying to determine what was the best college football teams in college football history, and their finals came down to 2 different teams from Nebraska. Now, what happened there? Does that mean that the 2 teams from Nebraska were the best? No, not necessarily. But what you have there is a voluntary response. People that are responding are people that are very passionate. And at the time that this was taken, Nebraska fans were incredibly passionate. The team was doing very well at the time, I believe. All right, that is the type of error. And that is Chapter 1. We'll talk to you again when we look at Chapter 2.